Commodore Sridharan sir. Happy Independence
Good
Day.
evening, TBR.
So
And
nice seeing
happy.
you, sir, and Krishnamurthy sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Very good evening,
Happy
sir, and particularly for you and our Air Commodore Sridharan. Happy Helicopter Day, sir.
Oh,
World,
thank you, TBR. Thank you very much.
the World Helicopter Day today.
World Helicopter, yeah.
World Helicopter Day.
Good
So it's
evening,
great.
Sridharan sir.
So what a great
I am
coincidence, sir. On the
HFS
day of
speaking.
World Helicopter Day, we are going to know. You are going to narrate the story of a helicopter with some
Post
VVIP,
Hmm.
which happened 51 years back. So again, back then in 1970, August 15th in the afternoon time, and that was the time when our 71 war hero, one of the war heroes, Wing Commander Krishnamurthy sir, was a very young and dynamic man, and associate with our Air Commander Sridharan sir also in the same unit, 110 helicopter unit. So from there, he was required to go to take the VIP, that is Governor of Assam and Nagaland, from Shillong to then Kohima for flag hosting purposes. And that time our Krishnamurthy sir was very young and daring and dynamic man. So even being a flying officer, he was only a co-pilot in the Mia helicopter, wherein Yogi Prakash, flight lieutenant, was the main pilot. So now, and to say frankly that our Krishnamurthy sir is a man of many tales. So now, in fact, being the witness to the historic event of that surrender instrument, and from there onwards, and he took us to what is that Antarctica
Antarctica.
expedition,
Yeah.
and he virtually took us through the entire team of Antarctica expedition in 3 calls. And then now we are going to have a great story of helicopter crash or handling, the great way in which the helicopter was handled, wherein they could save both the VIPs on the board, apart from saving their lives. So it's a great event. So now, so today, and also he was the other day, he was sharing me some of his views on his expedition to Kailash Parvat. So I think we are now again during the course of our journey, we are going to listen from him the great Kailash journey, trekking all the way into China to our Kailash Parvat. So he's also taking to a great pilgrimage in the days to come. So let's all welcome our Krishnamurthy sir for today's program, and also our Air Commodore Sridharan sir. They were together there. I think our Krishnamurthy sir also specifically told me that Air Commodore Sridharan sir also will complement the story or share his own experience together with Krishnamurthy sir. Welcome, sir. Krishnamurthy sir.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Welcome,
yes.
sir. HFS Sethi, Bhupender Singh Sethi.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a happy helicopters day also, sir.
It's a World Helicopter Day today, and it is a beautiful coincidence that we are going to talk of the helicopter and of a VIP flight and of a forced landing.
So many coincidences on one single day.
One single day.
Welcome, sir. Group M Das, sir. Sorry, we missed you. Welcome, sir. Jai Hind. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Of course, Karnik sir is also on the call. Welcome, sir. Karnik sir. So nice seeing you all.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to
Happy Independence Day to all of you, sir.
Yes.
Happy Independence
So,
Day.
in fact, our independence has been protected by the great heroes like you, in spite of so many wars. Today, we have seen the status of Kabul, which was virtually surrendered to that this one Taliban. So such is the greatness of our countrymen, particularly war heroes like you, who have been defending motherland despite so many challenges. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
A fresh good evening to everyone,
Sir.
and I'm happy that two of my sisters have joined the group.
Hearty welcome, sir, madam, Vishala, madam,
And
one more madam. Yeah.
okay, and
Hello. Anand, my name Anand, it's coming. Our sisters, Bama.
Oh,
Mama.
welcome, madam. Welcome.
And all 3 meetings.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to welcome you onto this call of our all air warriors. So,
Yes. I am her younger sister. We used to hear like when we were very young, we used to hear his stories, open mouth, and we used to appreciate all things.
undoubtedly, he's a great storyteller, madam. The way he narrates, So it's we are all spellbound when he starts explaining the thing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, if the war is 50 years old, this story which I am going to narrate today is 51 years old, even older than the war.
1 year senior to the
1 year.
And when we came from Ashimara helicopter unit, 111 helicopter unit to 110 at Kumbigram, Air Commodore Sridharan was already there, and he received us, looked after us, and we joined him in the Bashas. You know what is a Basha? Basha is nothing but a hut.
Oh,
Okay, and the floor was the Second World War taxi track.
sir.
There was no plinth. The officers' mess that time was on the taxi track, and
Okay.
there was only a bamboo hut. So the mess came right in front of us, a simple, straightforward Assamese construction, with tin roof and bamboo walls. Okay, so that was the time we joined. We call Air Commodore Sridharan as Doc Sridharan. So I joined Doc in 1970, and another 2 months or so, this trip came with my flight commander, Yogi Prakash. Unfortunately, Yogi Prakash died in a helicopter crash in Sikkim somewhere in 90s. But
Sorry.
he was a leader, a great flyer. He also got converted into onto AN-12. Doc, am I right? AN-12. No?
AN-12, yeah. He was captain again.
So he was a wonderful flyer. So to fly with him was a kind of a special boon, and that too with in the helicopter where the VIP. The VIP was nothing less than the first cousin of Jawaharlal Nehru,
Oh,
BK
great
Nehru.
man. Great man.
Ah, yes, and his wife Shobha Nehru and the entourage. Along with us, we had 4 technicians, 2 corporals and 2 ACs. And in the photograph which I had sent you, if you had seen, if you have a look at it, and in that you will see 3 airmen, and one of the airmen, BK Rao, is not there. Okay, BK Rao and I had a small little further experience in the force landing, and we will talk about it. So we went from Kumbigram in a simple Me-4 helicopter to Shillong, spent the night. Next morning we picked up Nehru's and a small gap, his staff officer, and Mrs. Kinta. We went to Kohima. Kohima was a special place because it's a capital of Nagaland, and that time only Assam as a single entity was a state, and Nagaland and Assam were the only 2 states in the east. The Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur and all came later. So we must understand that he was the governor of a very large area in country, and very important, and he was doing it very beautifully, effectively. So when we did a forced landing, I'm telling you the later part of the story ahead. The entire country was looking at the news. What is happening? Is he safe? Everyone is safe or not? Okay. I go back to Kohima. In Kohima, he unfurled the flag on. Incidentally, that 15th August in 1970 was also a Sunday. It's
Oh, a greater coincidence.
One more coincidence today.
A series of coincidences, not one or two.
Yes, yes. And he unfurled the flag, and we had tea together, and he said bye-bye to the chief minister, and we got onto the helicopter, started and came. The Kohima to Shillong is about approximately 1 hour 30 minutes in the old Mi-4 helicopter. Mi-8 is faster than the Mi-4 helicopter, but Mi-4 is a single engine, piston engine helicopter, old timer. And those days we had some VIP flights and special arrangements, but to fly in a Mi-4, we used to say that we have to wear a rain cape. Doc will accept when I tell him that we had oil leak, we had hydraulic leak. If it rains, the water used to come on us. So we used to tell a joke that for a VIP, we have to provide a special light rain cape. But jokes apart, we put a few cushions, we put nice white covers, and the helicopter was ready for the VIP flight. While going, there was no problem. from Shillong to Kohima. We took off early morning and we were there. After the flag unfurling, we started. It must be around 11 or 12 o'clock. I don't exactly remember. And I don't have the logbook here. Logbook is lying somewhere. Because of pandemic, I cannot pick it up. So I will just try and remember as much as possible from my memory. Okay, so we took off. In the 1 hour 35 minutes flying, 1 hour some 55 minutes we flew, and suddenly Me4 was known for a little bit of backfiring because of the piston engine, and the engine started troubling. So what we did immediately was, like the drill in the helicopter or any aeroplane, when you have an inkling of any emergency coming, we go looking for a clear field where we can do a forced landing. So we, from the hills area, we moved south and we found some plain areas along the highway from Nagaland to Shillong. And the engine was misbehaving and suddenly decided that it lost power. Now the captain said, he looked at me, I said, the place is available, you can land. When there is power available, let's do a with power forced landing. So it said yes. So we were gently descending and going towards the road, a highway which is going from Kohima to Shillong. We were near a place called Jowai, Jowai, Jowai.
Jowai.
Yes. And by the time we made a short approach and landed, the engine completely failed. But it was at a very short final. Anyone, engine tradesman, will understand that when it fails, we have a little bit of swinging of the nose to the left and right, depending on the rotation of the engine. And then we touched down properly. But what happened was, when the engine failed totally, we had violent move and the helicopter toppled on its right, on the door side. The moment it toppled on the right side, the rotors which were rotating, they broke, and the tail boom also severed, and the engine stopped. We immediately, as per the drill, switched off the engine, put the fuel cock off so that there is no fire. Whenever there is an emergency landing in any of the aeroplane or helicopter, first thing we do is switch the power off and switch the fuel off so that there is no fire problem. Okay. Engine is switched off, helicopter is switched off. We landed, and forced landing became a crash landing, because the photographs I've sent you, have a look. You just look at your cell phone, you will see the photographs.
Yeah, we shared in the group, sir.
Yeah. I don't want to share TBR's screen, then we'll have problem with the Wi-Fi. Okay. Yes. So please have a look. And the helicopter broke in 3 pieces. The blade separate, tail boom separate, tail rotor separate, and the body separate. Body was on the side of the door, because of which we got worried how to get the VIP out quickly before any fire or any other thing happens. The Corporal Rao and I came down from the cockpit. The flight engineer used to stand on the ladder in Me4. He also came down to help us. And at the moment the captain switched off the engine, I came down and went to the clamshell door. Rao and I, along with the load master gunner, we opened the clamshell door. In the clamshell door in Me4, we had a small little gap there also. We opened that also. Fortunately, both opened. The moment it opened, we took the VIP first, the ladies first, second, and the staff officer last. And then the moment we had switched off and there was no danger of fire, we all left the helicopter and went little away from the helicopter. Now, in the meanwhile, the local crowd came around. What I want to tell you here is, we were on RT contact with Shillong, and Shillong was monitoring, AMCC was monitoring all the movements of the helicopter, that we have left the flight path and went down to the right, and we were close to Java, and we were forced landing. And after forced landing, we said that engine we are switching off, the RT we are switching off, we are leaving the cockpit. So they knew that we landed. They informed the governor's Bhavan, Raj Bhavan, and they already started. They were standing by to receive them. But now that we have landed in between, they set out on the, now the police came. And good thing the police came, because the crowd, what happened, they are very curious. Locals are always curious. They see only the helicopter flying, and one helicopter comes onto the ground to them and it topples. So they wanted to know why and how. But the police came and said, just be away. Once the VIP moves away from there, VVIP moves from there, everything will be all right. So we called one of the taxi drivers who had assembled among the crowd.
Okay.
The taxi driver was also coming and watching the fun.
Okay.
From their side, it was fun. For us, it is an emergency.
Okay.
So we called the taxi driver. We said, please take. So staff officer took control. He, his wife, Nehru Sahab and Mrs. Nehru, they all left by the car. The police jeep also followed them. But later on, we came to know that the cars which came from Raj Bhavan, they met them halfway down because we were very close to Shillong. 20 minutes flight only. 20 minutes and Me4 is less than 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers. That's okay. So they picked up and gone. Now in the meanwhile, we picked up our luggage. We separated the VIP luggage, and when our Air Force vehicles came, we got onto the helicopter and we told the police they should not touch anything. The helicopter should not be touched by any of the civil population. Why? Because there will be a court of inquiry. They will find out what went wrong.
Yeah.
Because the VIP is involved, we have to keep all the things correct. Because later on, no blame should come on the handlers. Handlers mean the pilots and the engineers, maintenance crew.
Yes.
So we went there. We spent the night. We were taken straight to the hospital. Doctors checked us whether we are normal. Normally, when there is an ejection, the doctors check your spine. But we didn't have an ejection, but we had a forced landing, all right. So they checked our back, they checked the entire body, normal, physical, everything. They declared fit. Now we went and slept. Next morning, we were in the command itself. Shillong is the place for Eastern Air Command.
Yes,
so
sir.
they formed a quick 2-member court of inquiry committee and they went through. We all came back again to Jowai next afternoon, about 24 hours later, and they went around and the engineer who was qualified at Me4 had a look at it and then said it is an engine failure, no doubt. But it has to be checked further. The initial reaction was everything all right as far as the engine was concerned. Now the court of inquiry wanted to know whether we followed the procedures properly in case of emergency. Fortunately, our pilot was a very experienced person with more than 9 years service, and he had followed all the rules, all the procedures, and nothing was wrong. So in the next 3 days, we were absolved of any of the accusations.
That's great, sir. That's great, really.
That was the decision. Now, I would request Doc to tell me, he was in Kumbigram monitoring our forced landing. What was the reaction at the unit headquarters?
Unmute, sir. Unmute. Sridhar, sir, please unmute and speak.
Doc, unmute and Doc.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So actually, since it was a Sunday and we were all in our rooms, we were not in the crew room or in the office. So we came to know that our aircraft had taken off from Kohima and force landed somewhere near Jawai. And all passengers were safe, and because it was a VIP aircraft, so it was, even people were more concerned than a normal sortie because it was the biggest VIP in Assam. That was the governor of Assam. And governor of Assam was,
and directly related to the PM candidate.
Related to Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. And also he was the governor of 7 states. I mean there were only 2 states actually, but the others, union territories, were also governed by him only at that time. He was the advisor for all those states. So anyway, that was as far as the VIP was concerned. But as far as the aircraft was concerned, we were worried that engine failure, is not very common in Me4. But Me4 is a very rugged aircraft, as Wing Commander Krishnamurthy just mentioned. It's a very tough aircraft. It has a lot of problems. It has oil leak and fuel leak and water coming down. All that is very common there. But we handled the aircraft, and we had a very experienced captain in the flight commander, Flight Lieutenant Yogi Prakash then. He was a very experienced pilot, and not only experienced, he was a flight commander on Me4s, and he was our instructor also. So that way we knew that the aircraft was in safe hands, and we had a very dashing co-pilot, Flying Officer Krishnamurthy then. And he was also a very cool guy. So the unit was quite calm and cool that the aircraft had force landed safely. And then we came to know that they had been evacuated and sent to Shillong, where by road only, and the aircraft had landed and toppled. So that was the only point of worry for us, was that was anyone injured. But we came to know that nobody was injured, all was safe. And the actions carried out by the pilot and the crew and all the ground crew were also correct, opening the clamshell door, taking out the passengers from the back, as the main door was locked. I mean, was under the under the aircraft. So that is as far as the I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear, sir. We can continue.
Okay. I couldn't see you. That's why.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So that is as far as that the reaction at the unit level was at that point of time. And then next day we knew that the court of inquiry team had been appointed by the command, and they would be going to Jawai to check the crash site. And there was no, and the report was very favorable, that all actions done by the crew, by the captain, by the co-pilot, and the flight engineer and crew inside were correct in case of such an emergency with a VIP, which is a very special sortie for, especially in a place like Kumbhigram, where our main role was with the army. So this being a civil VIP, it became even more important, and that too on Independence Day was even more important. So that is as far as we were concerned in the unit. Okay. And the Me-4 engine also, as mentioned by Wing Commander Krishnamurthy, is a very reliable engine. And during my tenure in 110 helicopter unit of 3.5 years, this was the only engine failure which was there. There was no other engine failure as such. There were some other emergencies, but not engine failure. We had a lot of oil leak and fuel leak, and we being so young at that time, we were very, I should say, very genned up as far as the helicopter was concerned. And the unit, the senior officers made us work hard on it, clean the aircraft, fill the oil, fill the fuel, all that. We could do the DI of the aircraft, the daily inspection. We were quite genned up on that because we were young, I guess, at that time. We were only 20, 25 years old. So that Flying Officer Krishnamurthy also mentioned that since we were very young at that point of time, we knew everything about that aircraft, so that also helped in
were you also flying officer, sir, at that point of time?
Sorry, yeah, I was also flying officer. I was a junior to Wing Commander Krishnamurthy. Yeah, I am 2 courses junior to him.
Okay.
Now we were mentioning about the injuries. Now injury, when we talk of, is there was no breakage of arm or fracture or anything. But what we must remember is the helicopter touched down at 0 speed. Most of the time, you must understand that when the helicopter is under control in forced landing, we try and drop the speed to 0 or to the minimum. Why? Because speed means the impact effect is more. F is equal to ma, force is equal to mass into acceleration. So cut down the acceleration, that is the speed, there will be no impact effect on the passengers. But later on, Mrs. Nehru told me, the staff officer told me, that in the floating rib, there was a kind of what should say, pain, and the doctors checked and said they suspected that it could have a crack. That is the VIP. But actually, it was ruled out and he was all right. And
perfectly all right.
Now, I must tell you something about the Nehru and Mrs. Nehru. If you have read that acknowledgement, what I sent you in this thing.
Yes, sir. You have narrated.
At the end, I have given about them. Why I gave them was because the story is on how we were given tea and snacks. We were felicitated in the Raj Bhavan. When the invitation came from Raj Bhavan, it was very clear to command, please send only the crew.
The people who were there in the flight only.
It was not a full-fledged invitation for the entire command to come. They said, send the ground crew and the pilots. Sir. So we went. We were, in the meanwhile, our flight engineer and the flight gunner had gone away to base, and one, Corporal Rao, who was helping me to open the door, rear side door, he had also gone. The other 3 were there. So we 3, Yogi Sahib and I, we went to Raj Bhavan, and we were well looked after in those 2.5 hours we spent. It was an experience. That is how I remembered well, and I wrote it up so that it will not go out of my mind. Now I must tell you about Nehru and Mrs. Nehru, because after having gone to the Rajbhavan, having dealt with them, we were rather keen to know kind of thing, because that lady is not an Indian. So we were keen to know. Young mind, we wanted to know how they met, where they met, and where they fell in love.
Okay.
How they married. So staff officer, through staff officer and Mrs. Nehru herself, we were told that she was a Polish Jew.
Polish Jews.
Okay. In Poland, when Germany invaded, all the Jews, like in Germany itself, they were also targeted and troubled. So Shobha is her Indian name, and Fori was her nickname. Fori's father, Mrs. Nehru's father, changed their surname to an acceptable non-Jewish name. So they survived without troubled by the German Hitler. Now she went to study in England, London School of Economics, where our BK Sahab also had gone to study. His strong point was economics and finance affairs, and they were in the same class. They met each other and they fell in love and married. So this is the story about thing. But the beauty of the entire thing was Shobha Nehru. Shobha is a name she took. She assumed after coming to India, officially changed Shobha Nehru. She was more knowledgeable about the Hindu affairs than the normal Hindu of India.
Okay.
Because she wanted to kind of tell the world that, yes, she wanted to tell the world that yes, she loved her husband and she also loved the country she fell in love with.
Okay.
So and with her, there was no argument. If she said eat a pakoda, means you eat a pakoda. If she said drink the tea, means drink the tea.
Okay.
If she says sit down, you have to sit down. So she was very clear about it, like a grandmother she used to behave. But wonderful lady. And that is how I started the story. The story starts like this. She says, show me a hand.
Okay.
I am hesitating to show my hand because I have had scratches. I have had small little blood coming out because door, while landing itself, I got some scratches. And these are minor scratches. So when you say no accident, that doesn't mean that we were absolutely clear. Okay. And when we open the door, that door is generally closed for all the time. The rear door, only the front door, unless there is something big to load in the helicopter, we don't open the rear door. So that time I got a cut. So somewhere she noticed that and she said, show me a hand. So I wasn't showing. She said, yes, show me a right hand, something like that, she said. Then when I showed, she saw the injury and she said, she called the staff officer and said, please get him, get the doctor, attend to this. I already told her, when I told her that the MI room has done it, she said, keep quiet. My doctor will my doctor will look at it.
She was taking care like a mother.
She said, I will look, my Rajbhavan doctor will look at it and decide what to do. What if there is a fracture? I knew that there was no fracture because there would have been pain and things like that. But anyway, accept, because you don't argue with the VIP and you don't argue with the benevolent VIP. You don't argue with the lady like. So the best part was that the Impala, the car, the olden days, we had imported cars for all the governors. It came to pick us up, it came to drop. And it is like a boat in the clear waters. It just glides on the road. I mean,
you were all given a VIP treatment.
Absolutely. Because after all, we were VIP pilots, VIP crew, and luckily the God was with that family, us, because we didn't have any serious injuries to anyone and we didn't have any untoward thing as per the procedures were concerned. So it always pays good to follow the procedure, whether emergency or not emergency. Why I am saying this, we have lots of air crew with us. They will also accept that when you say have a checklist, follow the checklist, because checklist has been made by the experts. Okay. Now, the coming back in the car is a beautiful experience, and I would remember that forever. Okay. Now there is another interesting stuff. BK Nehru was born and educated in Allahabad.
Okay.
When you spoke to him, you thought you spoke to an Englishman.
Okay.
Because the accent, the English was wonderful.
Proficiency.
Yes, beautiful it was. But he liked to read Hindi novels.
Okay.
He used to call it as Upanyas. Upanyas, I think, is Hindi thing for a composition or a story or a novel. He was telling us while drinking the tea, he kept on calling it as a crash landing because he saw the ultimate end of the crash landing. So we told him that crash landing is a term which is not existing in our. It is either a crash or a forced landing. When you crash, you don't land; you only arrive onto the ground. So, but he insisted on calling it as a crash landing, and after 2 times he stopped telling it.
Okay.
Okay. So he said during the crash, I was reading a particular book and Svikarokti. That is the title I've given, acknowledgement, something like this.
Yeah.
It may not be exactly the meaning of the Bhavani Shankar will be able to advise me, but Svikarokti is nothing but acknowledgement.
Correct, sir. Right, sir.
So my Hindi is all right.
Okay.
Okay. So he said, I was reading this book. I was very keen to finish it before we reached Shillong because we had still 20 minutes to go. So because I inquired about him and this thing, what he did was a beautiful thing to do. He told his staff officer, the moment he finished the book, he wrote it, he autographed the book and wrote that to Flying Officer Murthy with compliments from Nehru. And one fine day, after going back to Kumbigram 1 month later, I got a call from field post office.
Okay.
So field post office postmaster rings you up when there is a registered letter or some insurance and thing like that. So I went there. What I was wondering where it is not. I was not expecting anything from my home, nor from CDA, nor from the central account, something like that. Because we are only worried about the money those days.
Okay.
So and when we went there, I got a small little parcel. So I was curious to know. I opened it then and there. I took a knife from the postmaster. I cut it and then I saw this Svikarokti and then the front page. I'll post it. This book is not with me. It is in. It is lying somewhere. I will post it on the
on the WhatsApp groups and so
WhatsApp
that we can
groups. Have a look. And it is a beautiful gesture by a man who can think high. That is what I thought of the. Now till then I was thinking normal about governors. They are educated. They are well from a big family related to the Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi's first cousin, uncle he is. Okay. And this was a gesture which was which touched me. And then I kept their books safe. And I actually was trying to get Brigadier Kimta, the staff officer. He rose to the rank of brigadier and he retired and settled in Simla. But unfortunately, his wife is not well. So he's a bit running around to the hospital and back and things like that. So that is why he couldn't join us. Otherwise, he would have given little more insight into the family of Nehru's and the emergency actions. Now, after all that, when we say what Doc said is very true, the engine does not fail normally in a MIFO. It gives you trouble. It gives you trouble. It will backfire, it will underpower, it will do this, but it will not fail totally.
And that we have seen during heliaborne operations, serious,
in the 71 war,
continuously. Yes, sir.
We never had to force land. We never had a problem. We never had a problem. We had a problem somewhere else because of the grass which went inside. One helicopter caught fire in the air.
Otherwise, yes.
Yeah, that was very close to Kumbigram. It was from Agartala. It was going to Kumbigram, and otherwise there was no this. So the flight engineers or the engine tradesperson will appreciate this helicopter engine is also the engine of the fixed wing IL-14. That is the beauty of the Russian equipment. It can be used from anywhere to anywhere. It can be refitted. So our main wheel, helicopter main wheel was a AN-12 nose wheel.
Okay.
So they had a beautiful system of interutilizing the items from one to another.
Okay.
So if you have any question, I have finished a short kind of briefing.
Yeah, it's so nice, sir. I didn't want to interrupt in between when you were in the flow. Now I'll again take you back to the emergency timing, the kind of mindset you were having and what kind of response, nervousness the VIP has at the point time. One second. So I request, I think I request all to go on mute. I will give the time for asking questions. Professor Shankaran sir, please go on. Yeah, okay. Yes, sir. Now, interest.
On mute. I have to wait for you on mute. Shall I? Could you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Please go on mute for some time. I'll give the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what's your question, TB?
One second. I'm coming. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for a brief narration of an important assignment with the VIP. So now you are almost back to your base at Shillong. I think 20 minutes short of your journey. At that time, you notice that there is some trouble with the engine. So, what is the course of action, sir? Once you notice some trouble in the engine or whatever it is, so how did you communicate, or did you communicate with the VIP, or you did not communicate, or how did you communicate?
No, the procedure says when there is a serious problem, if it is a minor problem, don't trouble the VIP, because he is not interested in whether your RPM is 22 or 21. No, he doesn't bother whether the RPM is 21 or 22.
Yes, sir.
So now when the engine backfired, the noise reduction is there.
Sir.
So everyone notices it.
Okay.
The passengers, even if
some abnormality, yes.
There is an abnormality. So the question came, and Bhavani will tell us that Me4 flight engineers will have to stand on a ladder.
Okay.
Behind the co-pilot.
Behind the co-pilot, he is standing. He's literally looking over our shoulders on the instruments.
Okay. Acha, okay.
Whether we are flying properly or not, whether we are running properly or not.
Yes.
So we told him to tell that engine is misbehaving. Now we told him also, don't go now, don't trouble him. We will tell when you have to. Now in the meanwhile, from my side, I have to tell the captain where there are clear areas. Clear area means there is a level ground, no trees, no boulders, no khadas.
Okay.
Now I told him, please move away from the hilly area, more towards the road. Definitely on the shoulders of the road in a highway, there are some straight area.
Yes, sir.
And I also noticed a little area, a short area, which was clear. And so I was telling the captain that it could be a possible forced landing site. In case, in the helicopter, we have something called an auto rotation. Auto rotation is something equivalent to a gliding in the fixed wing aeroplane, but it doesn't glide like the aeroplane on its slow speed. It has to come down like a stone thrown from the distance into on the ground. Okay. So we have to be ready that in case we have to do an auto rotation, how are we going to do an auto rotation? Where are we going to land, and how are we going to land? When we also require little bit of space, supposing we are not able to drop the speed to zero. I told you sometime earlier that we dropped the speed to zero when we land. If we are unable to do, how are we going to kind of touch down? So the helicopter had moved from the flight path onto the right of the flight path.
So taken diversion to the safe place. No, yes. I think you must be flying on the jungle or hill areas.
Diversion if need to be landing. Otherwise, sometimes we may even go along with a minor problem to continue, because 20 minutes flight is there. Yes, and from there onward, once you keep the road in mind, that in case of total failure, we will be able to land. So these are the points one keeps in mind. Ultimately, it worked out, and Port of Inquiry and the captain, they were both happy that yes, the suggestion to move to the right of the flight path, closer to the road, because the closer to the road means it was hardly 25 yards. The people could come there.
Yeah, it gives easy access for the team.
In the jungle, when you land in the hills area, you will get help, but it will be unqualified help.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now we had a vehicle. We had some educated people coming and watching, and they are not interested in seeing why we landed in my land. I mean, that kind of a situation was.
So I think you followed the emergency drill, whatever is required to be done.
What is given in the book, we followed very clearly.
Okay.
And we landed.
So what was the reaction of the VIP, sir, when you told them this is a thing?
Once we said, what they did was, I told the passengers, tell them to sit straight, tell them to, the seats we had no VIP seats in the helicopter.
Side seats.
We had only the foldable seat. Only concession we gave to I'm talking 51 years back. Doc has spent 3 years in the VIP squadron, communication squadron in the airport, where the helicopters and the airplanes are fitted with first class seats of the airlines.
Aircraft.
Not the passenger ordinary seat, special seats.
Yeah, executive seats kind of thing.
Executive seats. Okay, so